manje awusho khona ngithi njengoba uzila lokudala la umsebenzi ashonela
Kumanyakela ngitanisa angimfundi umntwana ngazi ukuthi uzwa kanjani angimfundi angimfundi umntwana
1946, Mind Boy was written. Peter Abrams authored that book. Since his passing in January, there's been a lot of talk and much mention about Peter Abrams' work. And with today being African Liberation Day, we're going to explore how his works made him one of the leading figures of the Pan-African community with senior lecturer at the UWI, Mona, Michael Barnett. Good morning to you. Thank you for being here.
Morning, sir.
I asked you when you came on set if this was was in the works, the symposium was in the works before Sir Peter died. You said you were inspired by...
Well, really by his tragic death, Simone. To be honest with you, in January, late January, when he was murdered as well, and I think it was, a tragic end to the life of a great, person, beyond being a great Pan-Africanist. And he's contributed so much to Jamaica, which is his adopted homeland since 1955. And I just thought, wow, this is so tragic. But, it occurred to me, I've been sort of convening these African Liberation Day symposiums at UA for really the past four or 5 years now, since 2012. And I said, Peter Abrahams is known as a novelist and a journalist, but not so much as a Pan-Africanist. And what really grabbed me was that he was the last remaining delegate for this 5th Pan-African Congress in 1945, who was still alive up until the time he was murdered. So, for me, it's almost like the end of an era in one respect. And being a Pan-Africanist scholar myself...
What does that mean, by the way? When you say you're a Pan-Africanist, what does that mean?
Pan-Africanist means that you embrace the African connection, embrace the concept that we are Africans living abroad. So that, as you know, Rastafari embraced that concept that we realize that our ancestors were brought here involuntarily from Africa, but we still make that linkage, that we're Africans by descent. Some people distance themselves from their African connections, but Pan-Africanists embrace it. So we see Africa as the motherland. And we embrace all aspects of Africa, the culture, the clothes, and so forth. So you see that with Rastafari, and the colors, the red, gold, and green, are Pan-African colors. These are actually the colors of the Ethiopian flag. Later, Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana adopted these colors, and many African countries use the red, gold, and green. Now Jamaica has actually popularized it so much that some people, assume that these are the Jamaican colors abroad. So that's quite interesting. But the key thing is that Pan-Africanists embrace the Africans at home and abroad. This is what Garvey said, and he was one of the most, assiduous and well-known Pan-Africanists. We probably don't celebrate him enough in that regard. So Garvey saw the entire community of both continental Africans and those of us in the West. We consider ourselves the African diaspora. Africans living outside of Africa, but still connected very much with the continent. So we considered us all as one group, as a connected group. So this is a Pan-African concept. So that even when black Americans decided to call themselves African Americans, it's a play on the notion that we have this African connection. We here in Jamaica, truth be told, still have to make that leap, that jump, as being considered African Jamaicans. Not many people are comfortable with that term.
Yeah, you still get a little eye rolling when you say that.
But if one is comfortable with the fact that your ancestors did indeed come from the continent, I think for some people they see slavery as a badge of shame. I, for one, see it as a badge honor in the respect that my ancestors were the survivors. We are the children of the survivors, and it's something not to be ashamed of, but to be proud of.
You mentioned Nkrumah Liberation Day. Do you want to give us a little bit of a...
Yes. Well, this is very important. Now, African Liberation Day, and I'm really glad that you're, promoting the fact that the 25th of May is African Liberation Day, so the whole nation knows this. It's an important historical point. In 1963, 25th of May, was when the Organization of African Unity, the OAU, was formed. And this was really formed not just with Kwame Nkrumah and Sekou Touré, who were pro-United States of Africa. This was their conception that all the African countries would come together as one bloc.
One more USA.
Well, when I say United States of Africa, it's a play on the United.
I just thought the acronym was very interesting.
The acronym is there, another USA, you could say, but a different type of USA.
Absolutely.
Now, it's changed its name to the AU, the African Union. Some people say inspired by the European Union, that's debatable. But the history comes from 1963, 25th of May, sorry. So we have 54 years today. We're celebrating the formation of the OAU, which is now the AU, and this was marked African Liberation Day. But importantly, Haile Selassie was instrumental in the formation of the OAU in 1963 because he was seen as the father of Africa at the time. He was the most senior head of state on the African continent. So what he did, he brought two groups who had differing perspectives. We had the Monrovia group, which was headed really by Ifebuani and other African leaders who weren't into this United States of Africa because they thought it would impact their autonomy as rulers of their nations. And then you had the pro-United States of Africa like Sekou Touré and Kwame Nkrumah of the Casablanca group. Haile Selassie brought them together, and then we were able to get the OAU. And that is why the headquarters of the OAU is in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. So that's how the whole thing started. And we're celebrating this. And Peter Abrahams was an important part of the 5th Pan-African Congress, 1945. Dudley Thompson was there, Amy Ashwood Garvey, Kwame Nkrumah, Kenyatta, George Padmore was the major convener, W.E.B. Du Bois was there. This conference is probably the most significant Pan-African conference there's ever been. And Peter Abrahams, he took notes, he helped with the resolutions, and they advocated for the independence of Africa. Because remember, 1945, all of the black nations pretty much on the planet were colonial territories, except for Ethiopia and except for arguably Haiti. But even Haiti had gone under American occupation since 1915.
The symposium is tomorrow?
It's tomorrow.
Who will speak and what will we hear?
It's going to be Earl Moxham, myself, Rupert Lewis, Dr. Shani Roper. We'll hear about Peter Abraham's Pan-African contribution. We'll get a kind of holistic view of the trajectory of his life, also how he impacted the RJR group here in Jamaica, his contributions, his philosophy, his worldview. We'll get to see more of the man. Multifunctional room near the main library.
Is there a cost to it?
No cost. Admission to anyone who's open to come in. So that's 6 o'clock, though. Very important. We're going to start at 6 sharp because we have a very full program. And there's 4 speakers. Myself, Rupert Lewis,
Earl Moxham,
and Dr. Shani Roper.
Okay.
And I suspect you will try to look at different areas of his life.
Absolutely.
So there won't be a sameness.
We try to cover, I mean, his life.
It's very extensive because you've covered some this morning.
He was
and it's
97 when he passed away.
Yeah.
So can you imagine how much ground he covered?
Yeah.
Man. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Good to see you.
boy.
Senior lecturer in the Department of Sociology, Psychology and Social Work at UMO, Mr. Michael Barnett.
That's going to be a good symposium tomorrow. Go check it out if you can. So, is this true? Beanie Man is coming up? Beanie Man is teaming up with Grenada's Driving School. We're talking road safety after this.